Welcome everyone to the Onward VR Master League. Tonight we've got a good one for you. It's beginners versus Vikings. I am joined by my good co-caster, NightFiree. How you doing?
I am great today, Todd. Thanks for having me. Sorry for the tech difficulties, but we should be hashing that out and diving into the action shortly.
Yeah, let's get straight underway here. We've got some bans for us today on the beginner side. We have a Snow Peak ban coming in, and the Vikings have opted to ban a pretty common map. It's going to be Quarantine. Maybe because beginners are just really confident on Quarantine, but I think a lot of teams are. It's very interesting that we see that ban come out. Map 1 is going to be Subway. We're going to start off with a pretty fun objective. It's going to be the downstairs objective, and beginners on the attack. We usually see them kind of bring in the strategy in the last minute or so. So, see how well the Vikings can hold out. And we're gonna let the teams know that we're good to go underway and just get underway. Now the Vikings are, in standing wise, higher than the beginners right now, but by a narrow margin. So there's a lot on the line here for placement in the closed finals. If Vikings are able to get a really decisive win, they could potentially overthrow GlobalCam in literally the last minute. It is the last day of league play. And just the idea that it's just going to be so huge. While we see all 5 members on both teams still in, let's just go over the rosters really quick. We got Pause, Neox. Oh, wow. Actually, I think about it. Beginners are using a reservist for this game. They got Pause, who is the reservist, Neox, Icy Woods, Kev, Smoils. And on the Viking side, we got Mantis, Nalik, Uncle Sam, Lone Miyagi, and Femi Fungi. And we're still waiting on the teams to get in. We did have a couple tech difficulties earlier, but those have been hashed out now. And we are good to go for what is going to be a very exciting Subway round. And we see a lot of the meta nowadays kind of shifting to be a downstairs push meta where people try to come out of the tunnels. I just want to take a quick minute before we start to give a shout out to our sponsors. We got ProTube VR, VR cover, Fixed Gaming, and we also have Arma, who give out our what is it called? Our merchandise. So we got that going for us. We're gonna just jump right on into the first round here. Looks like Nalik is casually throwing up a C4 onto the roof there. Might be a good spot. It's kind of hidden by those beams, but let's go check in on our good friends, the beginners, and see what kind of an approach they're planning on doing. And they've already pushed up into the tower, or into the tunnel. They can hear the resident Vikings kind of harassing around them, but Vikings are also retreating, so they're kind of giving away their position and then moving to a different position to kind of give beginners a false lead. We got Neox on the shield, just tossing nades. I don't see a laser equipped with that, so I feel like that's just there for callouts or just trying to identify where the C4s are. And we did see one placed pretty crucially earlier, so a couple good stuff coming out of that. Smoils is checking for flankers coming down from the mid section. Pre-fires out into the tunnels. Doesn't find anything. It's just pre-fire, so he doesn't really know exactly what's going on. But we are seeing the beginners kind of do their kind of standard push right now. They like to just kind of hold good positions, wait a little while, wait for the Vikings in this case to try to do something with their offense, maybe get caught out, weaken their numbers, and then push in the final 2 minutes or 1 minute, what have you. But Neox is using the shield kind of as a forward nading position, using it to be able to push up further with relative safety and being able to toss out utility. Oh, the C4 from Nala catches himself out. He thought that it was closer, so now the shield has a clear push down there. Now Neox is holding yet another nade. He's just a belt-fed nade throwing machine, right? Oh no! The nade blew up too early and right in his face. The res can come out, so he'll still be there, but that could have gone really badly for Neox. Currently on the Viking side, we're seeing everyone just kind of hunkering down here, waiting for the beginners to make their push up, but right now the beginners are still feeling the waters. There's only 2 minutes left. They don't got much more time to do that, but they are set up right now to push out of the tunnel where they've made a lot of noise as of right now. Yeah, another nade. I think that's the final one. You can only bring a maximum of 5 nades. 5 frag grenades, I should say, per team, because they cost 2 points and you can only carry 1 per person, but the smokes are coming out, blocking the shield push. The C4 goes off just a tad early. Could have been really effective there, but that nade falls in between the tracks. Also, the beginners are just some of the luckiest people I know right now. Oh, but the flash will definitely get Neox. Nolix able to find Smoils. Uncle Sam get taken down by Icy Woods on that push now. When Nolik is in such a precarious position, he's hiding literally behind a pillar. And he's got a whole flood of danglers to fend off. Currently in a 4v4 situation. Not anymore. Icy Woods finds Lone Miyagi. Vikings are now down to 3. Nolik finds Kev and Icy Woods. Now beginners are just 2. It's Neox and one other. It's Paz, the reservist. And Vikings are 3 strong still out of that. Neox trying to get pushy with the shield on his back. Gets shut down by Femi. And Femi will trade with Pause, but that's all that Vikings need to get round 1. A very nice little push attempt coming out from the beginners, using up all their utility, trying to weaken the Vikings defense. But it all didn't go to fruition. Just they got caught up in that subway tunnel and they really couldn't rotate anywhere else but out, and they didn't take that opportunity. So just the nading is what kind of weakened them, and the rest of it just comes down to the gunfighting, and Vikings are just as good as beginners in that.
I think I've sorted out my tech issues, and
welcome back.
couldn't ask for a better start for Vikings to jump off with their defensive round, kick up the lead 1-0, and I mean, against a team like beginners, every point counts. And this is a pretty storied matchup, right? We know we didn't get much time to dive into it in the pre-show because of some tech issues, but these guys face off constantly. They are very experienced playing each other. They're well aware of each other's strats and how they're going to approach. Faced off twice this season. In both games, Vikings has taken the W. So beginners certainly looking like they could see a shift in their rank, and I mean that's an important thing to remember, right? During this this series, although it is ranks 2 and 3 worldwide, it still is going to determine where they sit when it comes down to the round robin. So if you're ranks 1, 3, 5, or 7, you're in Group A, and if you're ranks 2, 4, 6, and 8, you're in Groups B. So where you land there is going to determine who you're going to face off against. And I would imagine you don't really want to be in the group that has to face off against Globochem.
Yeah, being the Globochem beginners game has always been kind of a fabled matchup, a good rivalry. We always don't know what to expect out of that one, and neither do the beginners, so I'm pretty sure they do not want to have to go against that either. They'd rather keep that for the end as long as possible. Going into round 2 now. Vikings will make the attempt onto the objective. Nolik on the shield, this time bringing a laser. I think Vikings are a little bit more of an aggressive team than we see out of the beginners.
They certainly have some of those quicker plays locked down that they've honed in. You know, they're very skilled at the fast push and the coordination here, and we do see an early entry downstairs out of Nolik and Femi, some flashes coming in, and this is a pretty dangerous spot, right? Lots of C4 placement throughout this hallway.
Yeah, any of these pieces, it could be cover, it could be a C4 trap. You just don't know, especially when you're on that shield. It's such a juicy target. And that any C4 player will definitely want to sink their teeth in. Couple shots going off onto the top level as the Vikings are trying to secure the catwalk. They're going to be able to do that with relative ease. All the beginners right now are hanging out either on the stairwells or downstairs, except for Icy Woods is in the subway car, is able to find Lone Miyagi. And Pause, or I'm sorry, Mantis is able to trade with Pause. Correction.
A little bit of that trade action coming in here, and it does get nullified. The res gets picked up, and these guys are playing aggressive. Woods and Paz are getting up into that action up there.
I think Woods ran in front of Paz's fire there and got downed himself. This is beginners plus 1 reservist, mind you. They're not operating on all 5 cylinders.
They're doing a good job holding off the attacks so far. Do have a catwalk entry coming in from Uncle Sam. Shots ringing out from Kev on those.
When they see each other.
A bit of a firefight, a little back and forth here. Down goes Uncle Sam. Kev with a nice pickup.
Yeah, this is exactly what the beginners want in this situation. They want to make sure that no one can secure that catwalk, have that high ground, and be able to move in from those insertion points. Vikings are a quicker team. They do have the ability to rotate still. We're only halfway through the round here, but Vikings are only down to 2 members, and beginners haven't been touched yet. Oh,
wow.
The C4 finds a double.
Wow.
Wow, nice way to end the round. For beginners, being able to tie it back up on the score line. 1-1. Wow.
Really nice C4 detonation. You could hear the call out come in from the squad to blow it, and as soon as it was detonated, it catches both of them on the entry. Really good teamwork and coordination there, and beginners scooping up a undefeated round 2. No one dying there.
Yeah, very, very dominant round coming out there. They were just able to lock onto the picks. Yeah, some of them got down, but the teamwork was there to get that resin, and their positioning, I think, is also a good off of just seeing how those reses came in. They were in very resable positions. They weren't far stretched where no one could get to them because their lane was cut off.
Yeah, and they still were playing it aggressive, right? They were still peeking up out of the stairs, looking for picks up in the upstairs section of that objective. But, you know, it kind of gives you a little, like you said, it allows your team to come up and get that res when you go down. If you die up on a north or south stairwell, no one's coming to get you.
It's very risky.
Kill, you know.
Yeah, all you can do is just try to tell where the enemy is and hope for the best that your team is working with that information, and hope that your information is clear and concise enough. But we're gonna go into round 3 now. Normally we'd say that's bad pre-fire to, or bad juju to shoot in the spawn point when you're on Marsoc, but on Subway it doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't. You have a very limited few spawns, and this Vikings team knows exactly where beginners can enter from, and I do expect to see a little early aggression from these two, Uncle Sam and Nalik, working their way up here. Usually we see C4s, nades, all sorts of aggressive moves, flashes coming in. A couple of bad flashes on the side of beginners there, and Nate almost catching Neox. Another botch nade downs Neox, and the C4 confirms. Also picks up another kill. More flashes ringing in as the push comes in. Kev applying pressure onto Uncle Sam. He rounds the corner, C4 detonates, catches Kev out. Icy Woods is here for the action too, and Nalik goes down, and Uncle Sam. Chaos ensues. We end it with a 3-3.
Nalik tried to go in for the res, but the timing was off. Clearly the information wasn't there that there was a 3-man beginner's push, not a 2-man. Nalik felt a little complacent and got punished. The remaining, obviously we got Icy Woods on the north side, but the remaining push is still rotating in. I think they were trying to go for something of a south push, but Smoils has thought otherwise. He will assist Icy Woods in making the approach down. Icy has picked up the shield from his compatriot, and he will shield M249 combo it, which is it's nice to have the ammo, but the recoil on that weapon, especially when one-handing it, is a little eh. Now we got Femi on the defense watching the stairwell. His role is probably very important. We've seen one C4 go, or no, we've seen both C4 go off. That's what happens. So there's no more C4 to take down shields. Could still be a Molotov, but it's really up to the gunfire and the positioning to be able to take down Icy Woods on shield.
Ooh. I think he got his shoulder caught there by Femi, and he's trying to get the pistol kill here onto Femi. That's going to open up objective quite a bit.
Yeah, if you can even just aggress the objective, that will force Femi to come out, but Pause is in such a great spot to... I'm sorry, that's Smoils. Smoils is in such a great spot to be able to catch that rotation from Femi out and open up the objective even further. Keep in mind, we're still in a 3v3 situation. Beginners are looking for that one pick to kind of shift the tide of battle into their favor. But we're kind of at a bit of a Mexican standoff right now.
This is sort of what happens on this objective. It's a tough one to enter in down to, and you really need assistance onto the backside. But right now they have Pause covering the flank, which is, you know, certainly a viable strategy. You have seen teams come up from that underground entry point and flank the backside of an attacking force. And now it looks like Icy Woods and Smoils are going to try and combo this. Woods is going to draw attention with the shield down low, and Smoils is going to try and prone in from the stairs and take shots onto Femi.
You know, and the nade's coming out there. Ooh, it's gonna be just right to find Smoils now. Or I'm sorry, to find Icy Woods. Smoils is now making his charges. Shieldless this time. Mantis is pre-firing blindly. Smoils is able to lock onto that, find that pick. Now we're into a 1v2. Beginner's advantage. We still have the man on the south side working his way up, but he needs to up his pace there. Smoils is on his own right now. Lone Miyagi tosses a bad nade, has to rotate back from that. Now he's in a very exposed positions. The help from Beginners can come. The line is there. And Smoils and Miyagi will trade at the end, and Beginners will go up a second point on Subway.
Pretty solid attack there. Very methodical, as you would expect out of the Beginners squad. Smoils proning his way up top, and you know, it's interesting. Usually you see the shield rifle duo really right on top of each other, right? You have a rifle right over the top of that shield to help ID and shoot targets, but what they did there is they sort of split it off a little bit. So once that shield went down, or even while the shield was getting fired at, Smoils is going to try and just inch his way in and get a really slight angle down into the action. Finds that Femi pick, and then a great job shooting the hands of the blind fire around the corner. That gets him his second kill. And then he just decides, heck, you know, let's go for the trade. I know there's one left. As long as I kill him, we get that round win. And he kind of charges in there, sticks the gun barrel right into the chest of his enemy, and they trade, and Beginners go up 2-1.
Yeah, it's really nice having that second person on the south side to kind of assist in the push. I know he wasn't as present as Beginners probably wanted, but it's definitely nice to have that line, because then it kind of isolates him into a box that you can just kind of progressively move on into and just murder with.
You know, I didn't think we got a chance to dive into the active rosters of both sides. Coming in from Vikings, we have Mantis, Nalik, Uncle Sam, Lone Miyagi, and Femi Funky. And over on Beginners, we have Neox, Pause, Icy Woods, Kev, and Smoils. And as you pointed out, that's one sub on their roster during the last match of the season to determine where you sit in the round robin. Certainly a decent chunk on the line, but you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, you're going to want to fire on all 5 cylinders on a team like this, as competitive as Beginners are, and putting a reservist in the mix kind of throws another cog into the very fine-tuned wheel that is Beginners. So we're going to see how they work with the fresh blood, I want to say. And they do, and they see...
This is differing strategies, right? We do see aggression a little bit more excessive than...
Ooh, that nade! That nade fights too! No, like
really nice toss. That was great underhand.
Just the timing as well, the distance, and now the confirmation's able to find null. Like Uncle Sam can still get res, but I think Smoils' pre-fire might get a straight bullet into his body. Femi's not in a great spot to go for that res.
So aggressive out of Beginners on the defense. They've invested 3 into this lane. Smoils dumping suppressive fire from a pretty forward angle while Smokes help block his vision. And here comes another nade tossed in, and it doesn't go quite as far. That could have been another 2 down for this Viking squad, but Uncle Sam gets rezzed. So it's just 1 with that nade, and you gotta wonder what the rest of this Vikings squad is doing while so many beginners are preoccupied with this lane.
Yeah, luckily, despite the amazing nades we've seen out of Neox, he's only officially been able to find one, even though it was a double at first. Just amazing nades from Neox. I can't reiterate that enough, but the pre-fire was not able to confirm Uncle Sam, so now Vikings are up to a 4-man squad, and we've seen comebacks before, so it's not the end of the world for them.
Not at all. Icy Woods and Pause down here covering the upstairs entry point. As action unfolds even higher, Uncle Sam does get Smoils on the corner.
Yeah, very nice little, very narrow angle for that pick, but the res will come out. Smoils does know that someone is watching that corner. He might be a little hesitant to try to pre-fire as much, but oh wow, with the pre-fire, the blind fire, he's able to find Uncle Sam. Now the Vikings are down to 3 men. Beginners still 5 strong. They have not been touched.
Man, Timmy peeked that corner and he almost got picked up there. Smoils still dialed in, still putting out the suppressive fire. And now Smokes and other utility are getting tossed.
Yeah, you think that Vikings would have rotated and tried a different approach. They know that Smoils alone is very strong on this approach. And the 2 nades should be a sign that there are at least 2 people right there, because there's typically only 1 nade per person. You know, you can't just like magically be holding 2 nades unless they gave it to you off the spawn, but it gives you a sign that there's a lot of aggression there, and the fact that Femi's still trying to attempt it is a little concerning.
Curious why Femi's still up here with the shield. What's his plan? I guess maybe he's going to wait for this team downstairs to cause a commotion, and then he'll start driving in through this lane with that shield, but you know, Smokes are out downstairs. It's going to need to happen soon.
Yeah, they got Mantis and crew, Lone Miyagi as well, working their way downtown from the mid-level. Ooh, Icy Woods able to find Mantis. He was not ready for that doorway push. Femi's able to find Neox upstairs. Now beginners are now 4 strong for the first time. It only took Vikings 4 minutes to do so, but we're into the final 2 minutes of the round now. Lone Miyagi is a little caught up by Icy Woods, but Pause with the counter angle is able to find that one. Now it's all up to Femi on the shield to do something for the Vikings.
I wonder what he's going to do. He seems a little bit lost in his decision making. He was going to drop back and maybe go for an underground approach. He decides to not work with that option, and I think he's going to charge Smoils with this shield.
The call out on beginners comes out. They know exactly where Femi is, especially with the shield. I think he's chosen to ditch it now. He's going to rely on his guns. He trades, but that is not enough. Beginners will go up another point on Subway.
It's kind of the hazard of relying on guns with the last one alive, right? It works if you have teammates to spare, I suppose you could say, but oftentimes when you get into a close quarters one-on-one, it tends to go in the way of a trade, and that has to be kind of calculated into your decision making when you push. You know, you got to make sure that you're not going to get caught around too many tight angles where enemies could potentially round corners like that and get you. And I mean, just in this map alone today, we've seen 2 rounds end in trades. So clearly beginners aware of when they have an advantage and when they can apply that pressure that might be a little bit overzealous, but still will get them the final kill. And you know, their strategies are paying off right now. That defense was very nice. That was a super coordinated push up the stairs. Smokes, suppressive fire, long-range nades off the comms of Smoils. It's a really good overall defensive move there from beginners. And Vikings now have to react. They have to scoop up a defensive round of their own. And you know, downstairs objective, I mean, I guess I don't know what you want to call it. Main floor objective isn't the easiest one to defend. There's a lot of entry points that you got to hold.
Yeah, there's a lot of entry points. There's plenty of places for Marsoc to kind of hunker down in those tracks and subway cars, behind corners, and if you really wanted to be able to have eyes on the objective, you got to be in a pretty exposed spot. So you really begin relying on being able to shut down those lanes that we see a lot of top tier teams do, and being able to effectively do it. You know, the moment that one of your lanes gets shut down, you know the push is coming through there. I think that's what the Vikings are going to have to rely on.
See how their defensive strategy shakes out as we hop into round number 5.
And it looks like the beginners are going to opt for a downstairs bias, a basement bias.
Yeah, investing 3 there, 2 going, looks like a catwalk approach. Pretty standard entry points for this objective, honestly. This has really been a bit more of the meta approach. No one really wants to go north or south. It's a lot harder to deal with. Ooh. And Uncle Sam catching 1 out. I don't think anybody should be wanting to go upstairs either. 2 go down.
Beginners getting shut down in the first 30 seconds of the match. That is a no bueno situation for them. But I'm pretty sure Vikings are pretty happy to hear that double call out from Uncle Sam.
Really good way to kick off their round that they needed to get. You know, this is map point here for beginners if they can scoop this up. So Vikings certainly catching the right kills at the right time, but they still have 3 more beginners to deal with, and it looks like they're positioning for an entry up these underground entry points. You got Paz over there. Kev, excuse me. He'll be coming up right onto the objective stairwell, and then Neox and Paz downstairs. Although Neox is dropping back for a rotation, I wonder if he's going to join Kev.
Wait, forgive me if I'm wrong. Kev's also a reservist as well.
I think I saw recently that Kev is on beginners.
Okay. I thought he was a reservist for some reason.
I think he was. But he could also, I could be wrong on that. It was just something I think I quickly caught from the uproar of chat that we have.
Well, we're still seeing the beginners kind of doing the standard strategy. You know, they're waiting it out. They're waiting for the Vikings to get aggressive. Maybe get themselves a little bit more vulnerable than they are right now. But Vikings have been doing a really good defense on this round. They're just holding their angles. They're not doing any irrational rotations. I think they know where the beginners are pushing in from. They do know that top side, that catwalk was just shut down immediately. And they know that they have the advantage, and they're being cool cats about it.
I wonder what this hip signal is Neox keeps giving to Paz. I think he's directing Paz to push over to the other stairs and that it's clear, because Neox right now basically just a recon point for this stairwell to make sure that nobody has eyes on, because you can get some pretty nasty angles from the the top of the stairwell right down into this crossing. So interesting little bit there, a little shield rifle play. And now they're going to shift over to that next stairwell. Neox will confirm no one has angles down, and then they should be eventually making their exit point. Shots do come in from Mantis, who I didn't even see tucked in behind the Coca-Cola machine.
Yeah, Neox is able to position himself with the shield very nicely to kind of force the pick on that. That Coca-Cola machine can be pretty powerful, but once you get trapped behind there, it's a coffin.
I guess I should be saying fizzy Coke.
Oh, yeah. We're not sponsored.
Right. But, hey, Coke, if you want to sponsor.
Hey. Oh, the nade's bad! He's able to escape just in time.
Just saw a little bit of a tracking error there as he went to go throw the nade. Got stuck behind his head, so he drops it behind him instead of throwing it forward. Very fortunate he had time on that. He didn't cook it. If he had cooked that nade even 2 seconds longer, he would be dead.
Yeah, it just would not have facilitated the escape, but now he's right below Nalik. I think Nalik's got to hear him with the way he's moving around.
Really rad position out of Nalik. He's staying undiscovered from the stairwell position. He's really just kind of letting this Vikings or beginners squad prep themselves up these stairs, feel more comfortable on these stairs, and interestingly enough, it does look like they're going to drop back. Maybe rotate around. I'm not sure.
Oh, Paz is giving him a nade. Paz is giving Neox nade. He's feeding him. This is a perfect time for Nalik to try to peek out. He might be able to see Pause first. Oh, he's seeing the shield first, and they both latch onto that. It's a trade, but Pause could go for that revive after finding Nalik.
That's a huge pickup. That's going to open up this stairwell. Smokes are out to deny a little bit of the vision as well, and now Neox and Pause are making their exit. Uncle Sam catches the hip of Neox. Very nice shots from the train. Vikings keep their lead, 3-2.
Yeah, the third one for him this round. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be praised in the tent after this, but this is looking really good for Vikings. They're down into the last minute. They have that man advantage. All they have to do is hold their angles and not let anyone get too close to the objective, but Kev is within seeing distance of it right now. Pauses.
They really need Pause to draw the attention of everyone here, and he finds Lone Miyagi, who was their eyes on objective. Uncle Sam does pick up Pause.
Kev's,
Phoebe's here. Pads out!
Pads out! Kev rotated past Phoebe. Phoebe's rotating right now. He doesn't have much time. He has to hit the ramp, but no! Beginners will get the cap!
Wow. What a great play there to just push in, tuck in, go for the cap. He knew where everyone was defensively. And I mean, that's Beginners taking map 1, 5-1. You can't ask for a more commanding start to your rank 2 versus rank 3 worldwide matchup.
Yeah, just Beginners are coming in hot. They have a reservist on their side, but that doesn't seem to affect them. Matter of fact, it only seems to make them stronger.
You know, I think we talked last cast about how, you know, Fireteam Alpha is a new squad this season, but all the players are veterans, and you know, it just goes to show you that if you have 5 veteran players, that they can work together despite not playing for years with each other. And I think we see that a lot with the reservist pool as well. When reservists come into teams, they tend to mesh pretty well with the team they're playing with and can be pretty effective.
And Pause has been a reservist for a very long time, and he's very active on the reservist roster, so he's very experienced with a variety of different teams. So I think that experience also does come into play, being able to adapt your play style to whatever meshes best with whoever you're playing with. Well, our second map is going to be Downfall. This is Vikings' choice, I do believe.
Pace, right? Because Subway, that was pretty quick for both the fast-paced rounds. It came honestly, but everything else happened pretty on schedule. A lot of kills throughout the course of each round, and I'm curious now what the pacing is going to look like from both of these squads on Downfall. You know, you stretch things out quite a bit, offer a lot more long rotation options, and I think that's what we'll see from Beginners at least. Some pretty long rotations, some sniper positions getting taken up to try and pick off anybody. I'm wondering if we're going to see the shield get utilized from either one of these squads too, because it has seen some play here on Downfall as a bit of a scouting tool, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember how I said that this is the Vikings' choice of map?
Yeah.
Vikings have opted to go to Volk, so this is actually the Beginner's choice of map.
You know, that makes more sense to me because Beginners do look pretty good on Downfall. They have nice strategies, and the map honestly works well with their play style. It allows them to spread, get into several different positions, and then right around a minute, 2 minutes, converge on the objective. It just offers them, it plays really well into the natural Beginners play style that they like to go for on even shorter range maps. So not a surprise that they pick into it, and I'm curious to see how the round will. I mean, you know, 5-1, momentum on your side. Beginners being a very experienced team, they're looking at an opportunity to take second here, get themselves out of the group stage where they would compete against Globochem, and bump Vikings down into that 1-3-5-7 stage. But I mean, there's even a chance here in these rankings for Globo to get bumped down to second. Vikings win this series, they get an MMR gain. If Globo loses their series this week, they get an MMR loss. It could be a swap in places there. That shifts up the entire you know, setup of all of these round robin placements. So very curious to see how things shake out this weekend. And, you know, we've been saying it all week and weekend. This is probably the most volatile we've seen the top 7 in a regular season.
Yeah, the whole competitive scene in Onward as of late has become much more condensed. Most of the teams are actually playing within each other. We're seeing a lot of teams that are winning matchups that, you know, a lot of people thought they would. We saw Fireteam Alpha beat G-Man. We saw Animal House beat G-Man. G-Man have beaten Globochem before. Need I remind everyone? So it kind of shows just how competitive this whole area has become in just Season 9 alone.
See how beginners attack their first objective in round 1 of map number 2.
Kev will be pre-firing. He kind of gives away the spawn of the beginner. So Vikings have something to work off of now. They do know the general vicinity of the push.
If shots are ringing out that early, you can guarantee it's over here, right? You know for a fact nobody's north right now. There could be a long north rotation, but with these shots coming in this early from this south location, you're right. It should give Vikings something to key in on. But even when you look at the overhead, they're not shifting too drastically in their positioning. They're just kind of holding that kill box over objective.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of beginners pushes where they take the entire ridge and then work their way in the later half of the map. But it looks like they're gonna actually bias themselves to having the full force push up that west roadway, and then go building to building. Try to work their way up that way. It could work. Those buildings are very strong points on those maps, and hence why we got so many individual callouts for each individual building. I don't think there's another map where we have many callouts for every single building.
I don't know if you caught that. Neox tried to M203 into a window. Didn't land successfully. It does cause a rotation out of the beginner's offense, and now Neox and Kev most likely going to smoke this cross and prone their way over it, or they might just prone across it.
Yeah, and while bullet physics are universal across all guns across this game, the M203 is specifically vulnerable to the forces of gravity itself. It's a much lower velocity round, so you gotta account for that drop whenever you're aiming it. Personally, when I've tried messing with it, I've always learned to aim above the windows and find, like, kind of visualize boxes above windows when you're trying to shoot the 203 into windows on downfall.
You know, this prone cross you don't see often from other teams, but it seems to work well for beginners. And if you prone across this gap, you can really, it's almost necessary, right? There's just a slight ridge that gives you a little cover just until the end when you pop out of it. And smokes deployed here it does draw attention even more to this south side, but maybe that's what they want. They want to try and catch someone peeking.
Yeah, but the Vikings right now are just very tucked in. They're waiting for beginners to come to them, and I feel like that, you know, both teams are really good at brawling 1v1 close range, but I think that's kind of part of the Viking strategy. Wait for beginners to come to them. Don't get picked off early from a ridge line if you don't have to. And just hope that you can win in these close range combat situations.
But if you do that, it does play into how beginners like to play at the objective, right? They prefer to crash in with very limited time, and they thrive in that chaos of time. They do very well, and this is an interesting 4-man press here. Uncle Sam decides, hey, I'm going to put some fire through that smoke and catches 2.
Very nicely done. Uncle Sam has been on fire this game, especially finding those crucial doubles. And Mantis might be able to find one himself. Kev identifies the position. He's rotating into the hotel now. Mantis hears it first, but he's not able to stop Kev. Kev has the lower floor. Femi is one floor above. Should be hearing pause right outside the window. I think he's just trying to hold that angle, waiting for Kev to just wander across it. But the way Kev has been fighting lately, Kev's been ready for any angle that's been thrown at him.
Oh. Yep, I was worried about that. Uncle Sam dialed in here to the second floor for quite a while, and I don't think he was aware of Femi's position, so he takes him down and then confirms him. Vikings into a 3v3.
That is tragic. That is not what you want to be doing, especially if you are the second ranked team worldwide. Last thing you want to be doing is making your situation harder by taking out your own teammates, but lo and behold, that's how the story played out. Beginners now have complete control and Overwatch over half of the objective. It's only Lone Miyagi looking at what he's able to find. Pause.
Very important pickup. Most of this defense still waiting closer towards objective, and even Nolik's position seems a little dangerous to me as Smoils gets ever closer to his push. I think he's going to try and get rid of Uncle Sam and then make his way in, but Nolik seems to be keyed in on this. Smoils also aware of the possible defender there, scoops him up. Now 40 seconds left into a 2v2.
Yeah, there's not much time left at all for these positionings. They kind of have to think about charging the objective now. Smiles is in the best position possible. Vikings are only one man. It's Uncle Sam. He's done good work, but can he stop two of the beginners? I think his best option is just to wait the clock out.
Yeah, 20 seconds left. Doesn't need to get too aggressive here, although he does have to worry about Kev pushing out. If Kev goes now, he could charge towards objective and get it, but Uncle Sam denies that. Now it's up to Smoils with 12 seconds left to turn and burn.
Uncle Sam, the only thing he had on his side was the timer, but he didn't even need that. He found the double and is able to get Vikings a win on round one.
Solid defensive hold from Vikings on boss fights map, or sorry, beginners map pick. It's certainly the way you want to kick things off, and honestly, it was a optimal beginner's push. They had 3 or 4 alive inside, or no, they got 2 picked up on the smoke, but they had a few inside the upstairs building. They were really close to having 4 press in to that 3-story hotel, but it just doesn't pan out. The shots from Uncle Sam really shut that first push down, and then he finds more kills towards the end. Just a great defensive hold there from him in that 2-story, and if he wasn't there, beginners would have had a much easier time pushing in towards that objective.
Yeah. Starting off with a 5-man squad, being able to push up to the motel or to the hotel. We saw Kev easily take that, and then the team kill came out. That was a little rough, but luckily Uncle Sam was there to save the day.
I was trying to figure out why he had only 3 kills, and it's because he got a team kill too.
Yeah. So it's not as good as it could have been from him, but
well, he technically did get 5 kills in 1 round, okay?
It's just on the technicality.
We'll see how beginners defend as we hop into round 2. Vikings kicking it off strong after a 5-1 loss on map 1, and I mean, can't get kicked much harder than that. So to bounce back from it is very good for Vikings.
Yeah, being able to kind of reset the mentality, kind of shake off the first map and approach map 2 with kind of like a blank mindset is something that we see.
Look at these defensive smokes right now, both vertically angled and deployed there intentionally so that they deny vision from the north spawn, so that they can position 1 up into that 2-story. And
wow,
it's a really nice little strat there that's helps them get into a position securely, but it does kind of alert Vikings that there's probably someone in that building.
Yeah, it kind of gives away the position, but who knows? If they feel that the position is incredibly strong, it might be worth giving away the position just to be able to hold it.
Yeah. We'll see if it comes into play here. Probably be a few more minutes until that position finds action, but Uncle Sam might give it some action shortly. I think he's working his way up here. Maybe might try and get an M203 shot, as he does have that launcher on the underbarrel.
Yeah, maybe he'll have, like, we've seen Neox's aim be really good with the nades, but the 203 kind of but maybe Uncle Sam can be the 203 master this round. He's aiming right at that building you were talking about. I think he's just waiting for someone to reveal their position. The smokes are there to kind of give it away, just like you said. But he's aiming straight at the building. He's not aiming above that window. He's got to aim, like, just above the window at that range.
I think you're right. I think they're waiting to see any sort of peeking before he invests his 1 solo M203 nade up into it. And it's a hard shot to make, so he's really got to be certain he wants to put the effort in. But A lot of attention getting drawn to the north. Nalik pushing in, putting out a ton of fire towards these defensive angles, and beginners not really budging. Their defense super tight on OBJ.
Yeah, I think that's what we really know the beginners to be. We always talk about them being the slow players, but they're really good at holding angles and waiting for the offense to push into those angles and just punishing them for not checking them. Ooh, the nade doesn't roll down far enough to find Nalik. A couple of shots coming out along the ridge line. Miyagi's able to duck down before any counter shots could come his way.
Uncle Sam dialed in to that 2-story there. He wants to find that pick as well, and he has options. He's got that M203 launcher still there. Meanwhile, the push in the north coming in. Fimi getting scooped up by Kev. That is information that Vikings can work with. They now know one's in there.
Yeah, and Uncle Sam was in such a great... Oh, wow! Neox is able to find Uncle Sam right after he launches his 203. That 203 won't be able to find anyone, but just the nice little peek from him. Neox there is able to get that pick in.
Vikings down to a 3v5. Nalik positioned pretty dangerously. He could be a serious threat to this beginner's defense, but they seem to have pretty much every angle that he'll have to cross covered. They have the stairs covered. They have Smoils watching the downstairs. They even have someone on the backside to watch the approach from Ice Cream Truck. All angles here going to be denied, and Nalik decides to push out, so we'll see what his plan of approach is.
Ooh, the flash is bad. I think Neox might have just flashed himself. Paz is able to find Mantis. Now Vikings are only 2 members strong. Beginners still yet to be picked off.
Yeah, this defense looking very good. They've done a great job of finding some early aggressors, scooping them up, and now Nalik trying to inch his way up. It's not going to work as Icy Woods has the angle on those stairs. Down he goes. Vikings into a 1v5.
Yeah, it's all up to Lone Miyagi, and nothing has been done so far, so beginners are still holding all their angles. That's exactly what they like to do. They don't like to defend the objective. They like to defend the routes that lead to the objective. They're all covered. There's not really much that Miyagi can do.
Oh yeah, and he tries to go for the quick cross, super exposed. Neox picks him off, and beginners take their Volk round, tie things up 2-2, or excuse me, 1-1, and I mean, we're off to a nice little back and forth here. It's what I imagine we'll see for a good portion of this match. Maybe some, I don't know though. I will stay reserved and say that caps certainly are a possibility with both of these squads. The way they push on Marsoc certainly leans towards being a bit more cap friendly, so I'm not going to rule out that it's going to come down to a 3. I'm not going to call it that it's going to come down to a 3-3, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got bulk rounds going back and forth for the majority of this this map.
Yeah, we've already seen a very risky cap coming out of Kev earlier on that subway round, which that should not have happened. That angle is being watched, but we talk about this so many times. It's about when you look away in this game, and sometimes you just get lucky and you're able to kind of slip underneath enemy radar and able to insert that code just off of pure chance. Well, we are going to shift up the sides that we have our objective on. I think, which side that the objective is on this map really kind of dictates what kind of gameplay you're going to get here. The ones that we've had before are kind of on the west side, so we see kind of that slower gameplay. There isn't as much cover on the north side, not as many walls and what have you, so you kind of see building-to-building combat. But here, now we're going to the south side, the east bungalow, or the east dumpster building, I should say. And there's plenty of walls around. There's plenty of buildings, there's plenty of bungalows, plenty of overwatch points. You can go to that white tower. If you're able to fight it out up there, you're able to have a direct view onto the objective. There's plenty of places for you to hide out that aren't buildings.
Number 3 underway. You see both teams utilizing this time between rounds to their advantage. There is a board inside the lobby between rounds, if you're not aware, and that does give you a place to draw up strategies on a map and sort of hash out where you want everyone to go. I would imagine with both of these squads, they're well aware of the defensive and offensive positions that they want to take, but Either way, we'll see how things shake up. Vikings might be looking for some early aggression on the hill if they spot out this quick spawn in the southwest, or excuse me, northwest.
Yeah, and there's a massive beginner's push going into middle hotel. They're going to be able to secure that pretty nicely. Pause is able to find Nalik.
You know, one thing I don't think that gets highlighted very often is how great a shot beginners are. Granted, that was Pause, who is their sub, but being a good shot, I think, can be more effective than being coordinated as a team. If you have somebody that is so good at hitting their shots, it can really be a key element, and especially in a long-range map like this, right, where that surgeon's hand is really necessary if you want to land those long shots.
We even see a lot of players, you know, they could be great snipers, but they opt not to use ProTube or a gun stock or what have you. They just have those surgeon's hands. They just remain calm. They don't let their breathing affect them when they're holding, you know, just 2 controllers up in the air. That's effectively what they're doing in real life, and it works remarkably well.
If you don't have a surgeon's hand, though, that ProTube certainly helps stabilize your aim quite a bit and is a helpful utility. So I do recommend checking it out if it is something that you think you'd be interested in. M203 comes out from Neox. That's going to be the first successful M203 we've seen this map so far, and it does scoop up one right on top of a pretty key defensive position. So it is going to open up some entry points for this beginner squad.
And Femi's blown back so far. I don't know where he actually was downed or whatnot. I just see where his body is. But if his body is where he as the player is currently, he doesn't have that big of a window to look out of and give callouts. Icy Woods is able to find Lone Miyagi on that South Ridge line. The Vikings are blading away.
Getting slowly picked apart. Mantis on objective and one up in White House. Heavy smokes and a quick push here could pay off for beginners, but I imagine they're going to take their time just a little bit longer. They're going to wait for that rotation all the way up on the north to come into effect. It's going to draw the attention of Uncle Sam, and then we might see smokes on objective.
Yeah, most of the Vikings have already been picked away. There's only one potential res, but even then it's a very risky to move from building to building just trying to go for a res, so they might opt him to just keep him as he is, just give out some callouts, but ooh, Nate won't be able to find anybody. There's no one nearby, I think. Oh, there was a C4 there. Wow. Oh, it was on his body, and the nade triggered the C4 that fell off. Okay, I understand now. But I was saying before, beginners have only used up half their map time so far, and they've taken out most of the Vikings. This is very aggressive by beginner standards, but hey, they'll take what they can get.
You know, it's what they do best, though. They do really good job of finding those early picks, and then it puts them in such a good position when it comes to the late game of a round, where they can have an advantage and apply pressure and capitalize on chaos with a numbers advantage. I think they're going to be targeting a cap here, and you know, I didn't rule it out. A couple of these objectives, like you said, lean towards being cap friendly, and now the smokes are deployed. I'm sure Paz, Neox, and Kev are going to try and make their move.
Yeah, and we got Smills and Icy Woods harassing the White Tower as well. That will definitely get eyes off of the objective. There isn't anyone in a direct line to be able to see the... Oh, no, there is Mantis there. I'm sorry. I thought he was in the two-story, but Neox is able to find Femi.
I think that was just a confirm.
Oh, that was a confirm.
That was just actually Femi dying from the M203 from time.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Still have one up in White House. Looks like Uncle Sam still holding from White House. Mantis still on objective, but Paz is inching his way in.
Yeah, he's slow crawling it. He is super slow crawling it now. Mantis may be aware. He's kind of getting ready to just get really peeky here. Paz hears him. He has tablet out. I think he's just memorizing the code. There's only 1 minute 26 seconds left. That smoke grenade landed inside that dark room. Just the accuracy with these throws is incredible on its own, let alone the rest of the gameplay that we see. But
now Mantis is checked outside, so he might have a false sense of confidence that there's no one out here trying to cap. And I wonder if Paz is going to make the move now while the smoke suppression is here, giving a nice audio you know, so it's really distracting Mantis audio-wise. He won't be able to hear anything from Pause if he makes this push.
And Smoils is basically kind of taking over the White Tower without them even knowing it. He's outside. He's able to find Mantis. And he has to defend himself as well. And that will result in a single-point victory for beginners. But I don't think that will be too crazily on their mind.
Yeah, if anything, it plays into their advantage, right? They're now taking a Marsoc round, essentially shifting it into as if Vikings had picked the map. They now have that Volk advantage going, so they can simply tuck in, defend this objective, and go up 3-1 if they so choose to. But, you know, I imagine that is probably the plan, too. I'd be surprised if beginners go for anything over-aggressive right now, although they have found a couple of very successful picks early game by applying that aggression right out the gate as a defense.
Yeah, now Vikings are kind of on the back end here. They're going to want to look for a round or two just to kind of reassert their lead. They had the first point, I think. But now beginners have just kind of taken that and gone with it in stride. And are now kind of running away with the whole match here. They've already taken map 1 very decisively. A 5-1. And they're kind of running away with map 2. You got to wonder what's on Vikings' minds here.
Certainly feeling a bit of the pressure, but they do have, you know, a safety net, right? Granted, losing this match is going to shake things up a little bit in terms of where they're placed in that round robin, but they're not going to be out of the round robin. Both these teams pretty much guarantee their position in the round robin 2 weekends from now, and it's going to, you know, just having that little comfort safety net probably takes a lot of the pressure that they would normally be feeling off of their shoulders. But still, you know, these wins matter because it's going to determine what teams you face off against in potentially the last weekend of your whole season.
Yeah, some of these teams are very predictable. We're probably going to see I'm not going to guarantee it, but we're probably going to see Globokev on the top tier, you know, the #1 spot there. So a lot of teams can maneuver around, you know, when they want to play Globokev by trying to, you know, get either an odd or an even placement in the world ranking. But I think Vikings are really just trying to go for, you know, just a win here, just to up their MMR.
I think if Vikings lose this, Global can pretty much have first locked in.
Yeah, there's not that many matches left in this season. We are literally in the last day of league play.
Yeah. I highly doubt you're going to get a challenge match scheduled right now.
Last minute challenge match. Let's go. Let me talk to my team. We're seeing kind of like two balls of death right now going at each other. We got the beginner's ball on defense. They're kind of holding really key positions, and Vikings aren't really spreading out across the map. They're kind of holding one lane. They've got Nalik kind of pushed out, but the rest of them are kind of going for that road push.
Yeah, and I honestly think it's probably their best choice, although Icy Woods does pick off Mantis in a cross. It is going to make it a little bit tougher for Lone Miyagi. Nalik going down to Kev, and just like that, Vikings down to 3.
Yeah, this is what we've seen beginners... Well, we've seen the Vikings do this to beginners, and they were able to... Well, they actually had the advantage, and they won that round, but I don't think that's going to stop beginners. They typically find their kills kind of around the mid-game, and we're in that zone now, but this is prime time beginners now.
Yeah, now they can apply that aggression, too, that they may have been hesitant to put out there. They have 2 confirmed. They can kind of work their way up if they so desire, but they don't have to. They have a nice 1-point lead right now, and they're on defense. All they have to do is just wait for Vikings to come into their lines of sight.
The Vikings are beginning to make their push up. They've already taken control of the center hotel. Very key point. Allows for a lot of overwatch onto multiple different objectives, especially the one in question as of right now. And it's Uncle Sam up there, and he's been rocking this game so far. He's identifying one of the darkroom positions in those Barsock Twin Towers. He's not able to find the pick, but at least he knows what he's going against.
I'm surprised we didn't see a team kill between Feeney and Sam there.
It's happened before.
Sure has.
Sometimes it's just being able to communicate. Like, if someone knows that there's a friendly there and they feel like that, you know, they could spook them accidentally, it's good to just say friendly, or whatnot. And communication is just such an integral part of this game. And identifying friend or foe is just one of those kind of mechanics that we don't talk about that often.
Pretty decent smoke, giving Feeney a little cover on this rotation, but it's not quite long enough. Doesn't matter, he finds the kill on Neox through the window.
Yeah, now beginners have to think about rotating someone in or find that angle or find a lane that they can defend from, but their objective is a lot weaker now. Pause is able to find Femi. The rotation does come out. Kev is now on objective. Kind of as insurance. His position might not be the greatest for finding picks all the time or holding lanes, but it is very nice to know that you have someone as a last resort on the objective and defending it. Current managed report is 4-2, beginner's advantage, and that's exactly how they want to keep it. Miyagi and Sam. I don't even know.
Just chatting it up, keeping it loose. Like I said, you can tell the pressure isn't really very heavy on Vikings' shoulders right now, despite them being, you know, rank 2 versus rank 3. They know what stakes are on the line, and they don't seem to be terribly concerned about it. But I mean, this match matters a lot to these teams that are competing into that top 7 position because, you know, like I said, who are you going to face off against? Are you going to face off against the Vikings beginners? Are you going to face off against Slobo? Whoever wins these rounds is going to determine where they sit in the rankings. So,
and I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, it also plays into fact of, you know, for the wild card as well, because whoever wins the whole wild card tournament will go against what right now is Vikings, I think, unless their MMR is greatly changed by this beginner's win, which could be that they go against beginners. Uncle Sam's able to find Kev.
That was a nice little, I think that was an M203.
Yeah, it works a lot better at close range. It's a lot easier to aim. Smoils finds Uncle Sam. Now Vikings are a mono.
Yeah, they're into the 1v3, and Lone Miyagi has to work his way up along this wall with suppressive fire coming in from the dark room. The LMG should make it a little bit easier to get over there, but surprised we're not seeing any pressure being applied from beginners. I guess they don't have to, as 8 seconds are left on the clock.
Yeah, the LMG is not the most accurate gun, but it's nice not having to worry about reloading. Icy Woods is able to find that final pick. We don't have to run the timer down. Beginners will take their 3rd point.
Quick little shout out to everyone tuning in tonight. We do appreciate you hanging out. There is a lot of action left here on a lot of channels.
We've got a lot of casts.
Yeah, if you haven't followed already, make sure you're following this channel and Master League 2. We have another match here, I believe later tonight at around 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's going to be basically the match for 7th place. It's going to be Mayhem versus Blaze, and I want to say it's like rank 8 and 9 facing off against each other, so it's certainly going to be much more tense than what we're seeing here. Those players are going to be feeling quite a bit of pressure because if they don't win, then they have a tough weekend ahead of them.
Yeah, they're gonna have to.
I mean, 4 hours in the wild card.
Oh yeah, and not only that, you're slugging it out. It's so many different teams, so many different play styles. A lot of these top tier teams like to take the whole week before and, you know, kind of hash out a strategy, kind of understand what these teams are doing, do their research, watch the cast, play with them in, you know, comp lobbies. But when you're doing it in a wild card, you literally only have 30 minutes after knowing who, like, not even that, honestly. You only have 30 minutes to practice between rounds, and who you're going to get is really just up in the air every single time.
There's a lot of good teams in that wild card, pointed out yesterday, but I mean, we have some squads that were competing against Fireteam Alpha put up a good couple of rounds against SMC just the other day, and they're going to be in that wild card, so they'll be a pretty tough challenge to beat out for that wild card W, but we're not quite there yet, right? We still have a few more games of the regular season. We still have rounds here left to go against Beginners and Vikings.
And we're going to have a quick spawn. Speaking of Beginners and Vikings, we're going to have a quick spawn on the beginner side. Looks like that they were able to duck down, but it doesn't matter anymore. They know exactly what's going on. Smoils is able to find Lone Miyagi off the bat. He finds Uncle Sam, a very nice little double coming out there. Reeling it in for the beginners right off the bat. Smoils gets that confirm as well. No res will be happening there today. Pause begins to move his way up to the hotel. Dalek definitely knows what's going on. He's watching that angle. Pause wasn't looking for it. Dalek will get the first pick for Vikings, but now he has to worry about the refrag trying to come in from Neox. Dalek is pre-firing. They trade. They're both resible. They're going to have a nice little conversation probably. Femi's able to find Neox, so that res can come out pretty safely on to Nalik.
Beginners down to just 3.
Vikings are on the downturn, but this res is coming out, so that will be a 3-3 as well. The massive, quick push has been shut down, though, so Vikings can take a little bit of a breather, find some spots that they feel comfortable in, and be able to watch some lanes and just wait out the beginners, because they know that the beginners aren't just going to push in immediately.
They did rotate pretty quickly, though.
Yeah.
They instantly switched and rotated around. Very nice, fast reaction, and it should put them in a good spot with plenty of time to work with on the south side.
Couple of nades going out. Won't be able to find any targets. The placement's good. They're looking for anyone hanging out on those rocks trying to ambush, but the beginners are one of those teams that have been around since season 2, and they know exactly what they're doing. Approaching the 3-minute mark here. Both teams are still 3 strong. The beginners are on their match point. The Vikings have all to lose right here and now. Oh, was that an RPG? I think that was an RPG. Yeah, it was shot at Woods. They're on Marsox. They have a 2-on-3. That means Vikings definitely had an RPG to use, and it didn't make its mark, which means the Vikings are effectively a 2-man defense now with one dude on a pistol. Couple of smokes coming out now. Really, beginners are just trying to facilitate their push and be able to find spots where they could push in from in the final minute, which is coming up here pretty shortly here, only a minute and 30 away from that minute. But I think their focus right now is just to be able to secure the White House, which is undefended, so it'll be pretty easy for them. It's very interesting to use the quick spawn and just basically just take away that quick spawn advantage and just try to rotate around to the exact other side. Shows you how much these teams really like the high ground.
They did take some pre-fire shots in the White House, too. Very concerned about the defensive positioning there and not too concerned about giving themselves away. Look at how this defense has set up, though. Nobody's really even paying attention to the north now. All eyes are south, and that's going to cost them as Smoils does find Nandis a bit exposed.
Yeah, and I think the beginners now have a very good idea where the rest of the Vikings defense is. One is inside that middle hotel. He was firing back. Nalik is able to find Icy Woods, though, but Icy can radio it out with relative safety because he has that ridge line to his advantage, and the res can come out as well, so wouldn't be surprised if this 2v2 became a 3v2. And now he knows exactly where Nalik is, but Nalik is watching a very nice angle and is able to finally get the full kill onto Icy. We're now into a 2v2. 1 minute remaining in the round. Smoils has pushed up very close to the objective. He's just one building away. The angle is being watched by Femi, but Smoils is definitely looking for that angle. He sees Femi. Femi rotates into the building. Smoils is actually... Nalik is going for the kill. Smiles isn't ready for it now. Beginners are just one man. Vikings are hanging in there by the skin of their teeth. Kev is rotating into the basement. Nalik tries to get the pick. He doesn't. Kev is recognizing it. He's not going for the cap. Now we're into a 1v1 as he finds Nalik. Femi is rotating around. Will he be able to find this angle onto... Ooh, and yes, they will. Vikings will stay in for another round.
Femi just barely catching that, and honestly, the way he played it was the smart way to do it. He didn't slow peek the angle that was being held. He quickly sprints past it. Shots go out and they miss. That gives him information to work with. He then re-peeks and finds the shots. Nice job from Vikings to hang on there, and a very nice beginner's push. I mean, he was in the corner in a spot where he could potentially punch in the code. He might have had time with just that last defender alive to punch it in, but doesn't risk it, and it does end up costing them the round, but they still are up 3-2, and now they're going into their defensive round of their own. It's going to be tough for Vikings to snag this one.
Yeah, it's very interesting for Femi as well to go ahead and check the non-capping room as well. I just want to point out, someone's odd objective. You just want to check that room first, but maybe he just want to make sure that the angle is clear for him to move into, or he could have just been confused by the firing lines. But just an interesting tidbit to think about, at least something that really stuck out to me. And this is indeed Vikings' time to be able to tie it up, maybe force a map 3 decider. Beginners have had the velocity on their side. Ever since effectively map 1, but now Vikings I think are finally kind of getting into their groove here. They will have a quick spawn as well. It's a mirroring spawn. Push is coming out all around. They're able to get up to that helicopter bungalow. Looks like Vikings are going to opt for a very direct assault. Nalik is leading the charge. Pause is right there. Ooh, Nalik is just trying to hold the angle. I think he's just trying to confuse Pause by rotating around. And Pause does seem very confused, judging by his body movements. He's not so confused anymore. Ooh, Neox is able to find one. Nalik has to go for the second one, but Pause is able to get in there before any damage can be done to Neox. Now, Uncle Sam is going to try to make his attempt at the hotel. He knows of that angle that's being watched there. Mantis is able to find it instead. Now they only have to worry about Pause. It has been radioed out because Uncle Sam is looking in the wrong place, and Pause is able to capitalize on that opportunity now. Vikings are only 2 strong. Beginners are 4. Both of the Vikings are at the wall by the helicopter. And we're going to see a bit of a slowdown in the play, but just as I say that, Mantis begins to make his move into the hotel here. This has been so crucial. This spot has been the deciding point for the entire thing. Kev, with a very nice little snipe, is able to find Mantis. Now Vikings are just one man.
Callouts from Pause, identifying his position, so they do have eyes still located over here, and it is going to force Lone Miyagi to go for a rotation, and even these rotations can be risky, but I don't think there's any angles watching him.
Yeah, he definitely has that freedom now, because it's hard to it's easy to watch a bunch of people, you know, trying to go on a rotation because some of them are very exposed. But the way that Miyagi's going, it's pretty covered. It's very stealthy. He could definitely get into a very nice little position for himself. He has to worry about 4 beginners, though, and understand exactly where they're at. Looks like he's going to opt for the red truck building. Maybe try to get a little bit of overwatch onto the beginner's positions. Try to find himself a couple of peaks. It is literally on him right now to try to salvage a win here for the Vikings. But beginners have this pretty locked down right now. And something I'm noticing that's very interesting going on. One of the beginners is just casually firing. Trying to figure out who it is, but I wonder if they're trying to just lure him out by giving away one of their positions and then letting the rest of the team dial in on that position.
It does come the cost of a kill on to beginners, turns it into a 1v3, but now they should be aware of where the solo push is coming from.
Yeah, and I think the focus on the beginners right now is trying to get the res. They really want to do whatever they can to hold on to their lead. Be able to finish strong as well. Miyagi's opting to push into the valley. Pretty strong little area. It kind of limits the amount of angles that could be held onto him because it is literally a canyon. But that white tower is definitely going to be a lot of trouble for him.
Slowly working his way through South Ravine, looking for any sort of action, but these guys are so tucked in. He won't find it till it's too late. Icy Woods with the shots out, finds the pick, and beginners taking map to 4-2. They certainly had a... You know, I said this about Globochem the other day too when eyes were on them in their pretty dominating performance last series. They didn't quite look like a on-point Globochem squad. They still were winning and finding kills, but it looked a bit more spread out and chaotic. And I kind of wonder if that's something that beginners are going for on this set themselves. You know, it doesn't seem like they are necessarily converging on objective at that last minute mark with everyone alive like they normally would want to. But they are still finding wins and picks. So it might be a little bit of column A, column B, where they're trying not to give away too many strategies to teams that are dropping into this series, because it is a very, you know, highly viewed series. But you know, it's still, it's interesting. You got to wonder if some of these teams at the top are trying to, you know, juke some of these other players.
Yeah, and you know, with their places set in stone already, I don't think there's any scoreline that could happen that can knock either of these teams out of contention right now. Right. I think they're just trying to.
You don't need to show your best plays, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna keep that best for last, obviously, and so you don't want people like Globochem kind of looking here and seeing like, oh, they're gonna do this during our game against them when we play them, or you know, I'm throwing Globochem out there, but whoever is facing off beginners in the finals or whatnot, we usually see that Globochem beginners,
You know, this is interesting to think about, right? Because beginners are gonna take this win. I gotta wonder if it's gonna push them up into second. Because then you're gonna have a tough group on both sides, right? You're gonna have Globochem on 1-3-5-7. You're gonna have beginners on 2-4-6-8. But if the MMR isn't enough to push them up over the threshold, we still could see. I mean, I think it'd be I don't know if that's happened before, but beginners in Globo ranks 1 and 3, only one of them going through to the finals.
Yeah. And right now, it'd be very interesting. I think it'd be actually really fresh to see some new teams kind of appearing in the finals. We see plenty of very good talent kind of, how do I put this, you know, challenge the throne of some of these top tier teams, and it'd be really cool to see, you know, a team coming from like the wild card or something like that actually like making it through and becoming a massive success story.
Yeah, and I mean, if you take your historically 1-2 worldwide teams, put them in the same group, it makes that group incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
But it does offer an option for that 2, 4, 6, 8, the 8th being the wild card qualifier. They will have an opportunity there. Granted, none of those teams in the top 7 are easy to beat, and they are capable of taking on Globo and beginners, but wow, the free fire.
This is all guns on deck on the beginner side, just trying to shut down any kind of defensive push coming up from Vikings. I think that's something that the Vikings have actually done pretty well, is getting these nice little picks on defense from pretty uncouth positions.
I gotta wonder if this is one of those maybe plays that they have that necessarily isn't refined for the finals, but it's still something that they've tried before, where it's just dump suppressive fire and push forward. But it's interesting to see that they're still trying to grab these map wins, and I do wonder if it is because they're trying to get maximum MMR so that they have an opportunity to potentially get pushed up to second place.
I mean, right now I feel like I'm watching a Legionnaires game from beginners, which isn't bad at all. Legionnaires are really good at playing Suburbia, and they're really good at holding angles too. It's kind of interesting to see beginners kind of tweak themselves to kind of adopt a different team's playstyle. They are beginning to clump up now, and I think I'm pretty certain we're gonna see a pretty massive lane 4 push, trying to wrap around and flank the defense.
A lot of smokes smoking out this lane for the cross.
It is raining utility on lane 4 right now, and it is going to be very hard for anyone to be able to find that, especially for Lodmyagi. He's not able to find Icy Woods, and Woods is the first one to be able to cross the roadway with some relative safety.
Coming in, getting dangerous close to the crossing, but there is 4 over across here now, and they got to be aware of some other angles they're taking some shots into. Of Neox getting some hits from Femi, and they also got to be concerned about Mantis. Vikings actually decently covering this cross.
Ooh, Femi's able to find Neox, but Neox can now give some callouts or try to facilitate a res, but his position is now being watched by Mantis, and Smoils is going to be able to find that, or I'm sorry, Smoils is going to be found by Mantis. And I think Woods now has a very good idea where Mantis is.
Woods picking up Femi there as well. It does open up the res option, and I wonder if Mantis is going to drop off this angle.
Well, Pause, the reservist, has opted to go his own way, and it's working pretty well so far. That nade's going to end a little short, but he's now putting a direct push onto the objective. Icy Woods, I think, has a very good idea where Mantis is, but Mantis is just so tucked in that they're not able to pre-fire through those bushes and find that pick.
I wonder if Mantis is hearing the comms between Woods and Neox, because it should give him more information that another's still here.
And it kind of puts him in a conundrum if he even knows the information. Does he radio it out and risk his own position? Pause is able to find Uncle Sam. There's only one Viking left. It is Mantis. He's got to rotate because Pause has a... Objective is as wide open in these games, I think, as it could possibly get.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. The playstyle of beginners here does have its downsides. When you don't get aggressive off of those picks and you don't charge in, it can result in you not getting easy caps. And that was just a res, no team kill, nothing to be too worried about.
I thought it was.
Still, objective wide open. Pause not making any moves yet. Mantis still holding these angles here.
Yeah, Mantis is just holding off the main push, but I don't think he realizes that objective is incredibly wide open.
But I mean, what are the odds that, you know, Pause doesn't know this, right? And for him to just charge into objective is very risky.
We've seen some teams be able to kind of sneak their way from the tank completely prone and just work their way up very slowly onto the objective and find the cap that way. Neox is... I think both beginners and Vikings kill counts are off right now, judging by their playstyle. They're playing like there's more people on both sides. Mantis, I think, feels like that there are more people on the objective than he thinks there are. He now rotates back. I think he finally had a break to check his tablet. And beginners don't know that he was the last guy. Paz is able to find that one. Beginners will take the first point in what could have been 2 points for easily a minute there.
Does start him off with a nice Marsoc win, though, on... I believe this is their map pick, so I guess not terribly surprising, but it does give him a nice little lead. And honestly, I like I said, I'm curious what happens if they take this 4-0, where their ranking will sit. I really don't know what we're going to see in this round robin. I still have no idea what teams are going to be in what group, and we're on the last day of regular season. It's
kind of the excitement that comes in through wildcard is that anything can happen. You know, each team faces... It's a completely different meta. Each team faces against each team for one map only, and the maps are preset, so it's not like you can just go ahead and be banning what map they're good on. Right. You could get matched up with Ember on Snow Peak, and we know that Ember practiced Snow Peak like every day, so you could just get the short end of it. Or you could, you could get SMC, they're not in the wild card, but I'm just throwing this out there. You get SMC Tactical on Downfall, and they never play that, so you could get both a good end or a bad end. Better one would be Mayhem Suburbia. They banned that as well.
Exciting times for sure. We do appreciate everybody dropping by. I think we have, I want to take a double check. I want to say we might have some matches live right now over on the Echo Arena side of things as well.
And we do.
I know they're finalizing their season this week too.
Yeah, and we do have a cast going on Onward Master League 2. I think Trip and Control are doing Silent Purge and Danglers, so definitely go check that out as well. Gonna be a good matchup there.
I think Danglers are in a pretty precarious spot themselves. If they end up losing that series, I'm pretty sure they're also out of the contention for the top 7. So many, like I said, I have no idea who's going to be in that top 7. I have no idea where that 7th position is going to lie until the end of today.
Yeah, it used to be back in the earlier seasons, we had a pretty good idea, like, oh, it's going to be like Globocam, and we could have said Mob Squad back in Season 4 when they were one of the teams to beat. But now, we don't know. Ooh, but Nalik knows where Woods is. Able to get that pick pretty nicely. Beginners are already down one member. This is the kind of stuff that Vikings need to ride off of. Being able to find those picks.
Neox tucked in behind the Hesco barrier. He is just barely unable to be spotted by Fimi. If his head is peeked up an inch higher, it's going to be a headshot from Fimi Funky here.
For those of you who are non-Californians, it's called the Jersey Barrier. Smoils is able to find Uncle Sam.
For everybody that doesn't live in Jersey.
I only see him on the New Jersey Turnpike. I'm an East Coaster, so we've always called them Jersey Barriers. Neox is able to find Phoebe with a C4, I think. Now he's rotating around. I think he's audible to Lone Miyagi, so that's why Miyagi is just watching that angle.
Smoils and Nalik in a bit of a trash talk, and Nalik finds some shots through the wood onto Smoils. They don't quite land all the way.
I like that saying. I'll have to steal that. Trash talk, find some shots. Ooh, the second C4 goes off. No more C4 utility is available, but that's not going to stop. Now, like, he's able to find pause, and he's lining up for the second member who's behind that fence, so that visual isn't there, but the kill is within his grasp. Ooh, but Miyagi and Keb are going to trade instead. Now there's only effectively one member on objective for beginners, but Neox, the member off of objective, is able to find that pick through the bush. And now we're into a 2v1 with beginners back on the advantage.
It's going to come down to Manus here, pushing his way through lane 3, I believe. Neox still has eyes on, though. Oh, he isn't really dialed into this lane entry point. He's still concerned about his far east approach from that street, but we'll see. The smoke here should give him an idea.
Yeah, I think Neox knows exactly what's going on. He's rotating around. Oh, and he's able to find that pick. Beginners will go up a second point.
Really nice job from beginners there, hanging on to that defense, finding some picks that they need, and then obviously clutching up and securing their second round win. It's just looking like beginners running away with momentum right now. Map 1, 4-1, map 2, 4-2, and now here they're in the lead, 2-0. Very much, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's Vikings not necessarily putting in a top tier effort, or if it's beginners just kind of stepping up and playing very well. But historically, Vikings has beat beginners, and beginners have a sub this time around, so you would think that the trend would be for Vikings to come out on top in this series, but beginners have proven the statistics very wrong and been really a dominating squad, at least today. And you know, you got to be wondering what they're going to look like when they have all 5 in that round robin firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, being able to have that team camaraderie is such a huge factor when it comes to competitive play in Onward. It allows you to kind of use like your best callouts or understand how each player is going to play. You know, you got your flanker guy there, and he's going to do his flanking thing, and you could build a strategy around that and use that to your advantage rather than, you don't know what I'm just throwing pause out there, but you don't know what pause is going to do when you don't play with him 24/7.
Right.
He could do some really crazy stuff, and he could be in a position that you thought was definitely going to be an enemy position, and just go ahead and team kill him accidentally. So beginners have been doing really well. They really said something about a team like that, to be able to incorporate someone new and immediately get them playing on that level.
It sure does indeed. Beginners looking to attack this time around and potentially secure themselves a cap and be up 4-0 on map 3, but that is a tall order against this Vikings squad. They are still competing, still looking strong up against this beginners team, finding pretty good picks and bringing things pretty close. Some 2-1s, but see if they can do that here.
Yeah, the push from beginners now, kind of similar to what we saw before in round 1. Kind of trying to just take control of that mid lane. Along with some pre-fire coming out from Neox, but that's going to be shut down immediately by Femi. He has a pretty open rotation there. I'm surprised there wasn't a refrag from Woods, but just the positioning was not there. Oh, but he will be able to get the refrag in the end. Femi just got a little too far out there. Spoils and Mantis are next door neighbors. If one of them makes a peek, the other will know exactly what's going on. I think Smoils has an idea.
So close, but so far away. Smoils not going to be spotting Mantis anytime soon, even if he does decide to peek. And honestly, the comms and the rotation is going to give info to Mantis, but I don't know. I'm curious on this middle house objective. I think if beginners invest smokes on OBJ and start to push in, they could have a pretty easy exposed objective for a cap.
Yeah, and Smoles is making a lot of noise, so I think Mantis knows exactly what's going on. And Woods is also pushed up to the burning building. He's rotating back now. I think he's just trying to go confuse the person who's inside that spawn house.
Yeah. This is weird though, right? I mean, look at this defensive setup. Kev could walk straight through carport right up to the tank and be right on objective uncontested.
The nade would have been perfect from Mantis, but Spoils just rotates around too much as well. Kev and Pause working their way into the middle house. This is such a crucial point on this objective. You're able to control the middle. Oh! Uncle Sam is able to find a nade or a C4. Is able to take down one. Uncle Sam goes for the confirm, able to find Pause as well. And Spoils is going to go back in there now. Mantis is able to find Spoils. Beginners have been decimated in the course of a couple seconds here. And now it is all up to Icy Woods.
Yeah, I think Lone Miyagi might be feeling a little bit of the panic pressure there. Drops down into that first floor. I thought he was going to charge tank and just make sure no one was there. Mantis peeking out, does draw fire from Icy Woods. That draws the attention of Lone Miyagi right over the head of Icy Woods.
And they know exactly where he's at. His cover is not the greatest. He's just behind that one concrete barrier. I think Vikings are pretty sitting a little pretty right now in this round.
They certainly are. They have some really good defensive setup here. Lone Miyagi eyes on objective. I don't think Woods has... Oh, I stand corrected. Still some utility left as he drops the smoke.
A lot of pre-firing going out into the smoke. They're just trying to make sure that he doesn't have a lane to cross at. Now he's going to try to... I think he's trying to go for a cap. He tried to throw a smoke there to blind Nalik. He's clearly not too concerned about trying to find the pick. But then he's got to worry about Lone Miyagi. But Mantis is just able to lock it on. Yeah, he's just able to lock it on that position. And Vikings will take a point of their own.
Staying true to the theme of the series, Vikings do put up at least 1 point on the board, but we'll see if beginners allow any more. The most we've seen 4-2 on map number 2, 5-1 on map 1. I forgot that that ended in a cap when they were up 3-1.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty exciting cap to end the round on Subway, and beginners have just been riding that momentum ever since, and they've just been an unstoppable force throughout this game.
Yeah, no kidding, man. If they just had denied that one, the final attacker from getting into that Subway objective circle, they would have potentially taken map 1, but would have at least gotten them to 3-2. They could have contended for it. Either way, beginners really taking it to Vikings today. And I mean, you look at the score lines in the past, and even this season, Vikings have won, but a lot closer. It's been like 9-7, you know, very tight rounds, but they have won. And here we're just seeing the total opposite. I also am starting to wonder now if maybe Vikings have come into this series a little less locked in. Maybe they're not trying to show off their plays for when it comes time for the round robin, because they're a team that's been doing really good this season and kind of flying under the radar of a couple of, I would imagine, a couple of NA squads.
Maybe they're just trying not to get into the Globochem bracket.
Yeah, I know, there's so many, so many questions. Gosh, wouldn't that be something? They take an intentional loss so that they drop down to third? Well, no, they'd want to stay second.
They want to.
Them out.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. They want to get into the Globochem bracket because Globochem in previous seasons has been a little bit more squishy and not the force that they have been before. But I'd argue that that's different now. They've been very strong in this opening season.
I don't think anyone wants to be in Globochem's division.
I don't think anyone wants to be in either beginners or global chem's position.
Looks like we did get a bit of a raid from the Master League 2 channel, meaning that Danglers match is up, and I don't know if they... I think map 1 they lost from what I know on the score line, but I don't want to spoil much more than that because I'm sure people want to tune into the VOD, catch the action on their own time, and be shocked by the results.
Well, if you want a spoiler, Harry Potter defeats Voldemort. Sorry. We're in the first minute of gameplay now. There's only been one pick so far. Vikings have lost one member. That's kind of what beginners ride off of. They like to just find those single picks and then work that spot where that pick is happening because they know the defense is a little bit weaker at that very spot.
Despite beginners being known for playing things slow and tucking in early, they do a very good job of finding early picks. I think that's one of the key components to their success in a lot of their win scenarios, and you just don't see it happening here much for the Vikings team, right? Almost every round, I think, beginners have taken that kill lead.
And now the Vikings are very audible in front of the middle house. There's going to be some good nades thrown at it because they're able to radio it out exactly where they're behind the house. I think Nalik is trash talking with Neox.
They are.
He's doing a good job. So now from Neox. Pause is able to find Mantis. It's interesting, the beginner's defense on this one. 2 inside the spawn house. Well, now it's 1. Nalik's able to find Icy Woods inside that very house, and it looks like the Vikings are going to try to make their attempt on the middle house or just ignore it altogether. The nade comes out from Neox. It's a flash. Won't do anything. Nalik might be able to cool it down, but no, he's going to be caught out by Pause inside that spawn house, and beginners will take another point.
Really nice commanding win there on defense, and you know, their beginners continue to find success in this series. They're looking good. They're finding their early picks. Their defensive setup is strong. You know, and it's really a optimal scenario for beginners right now. You couldn't ask for a better series against a team that you might be concerned is going to take a win against you.
Yeah, now Vikings, once again, they're kind of on the back end here. They've already lost the entire game, so let's just remember that. But if they want to try to scrape out here with some MMR, or minimize the loss, I should say, and maybe not fall into 4th or anything, they definitely want to be able to put up a good map 3, and beginners are just not letting that happen.
They're really not. It's been a tough battle for Vikings this whole series, but we've seen they're not terribly phased, and we've mentioned plenty of times why, so not surprising to see, but you know, I'm excited to see what the divisions, where the division's set after the end of the day.
We're going to have to wait until after the game and after both teams submit to understand how this match comes into play on both ends, but hanging out with the beginners on the spawn here, kind of seeing how they're going to opt to attack the first, oh no, it's the second north objective that we've had this game. It's the only other one, actually. Shots coming out from Lone Miyagi. Just a couple, though. Some nades are coming out from Neox. That's a rocket, but it's too far. Now, a much more adequately underthrown counter nade comes in, but it won't be able to find Woods or any of the crew. Smoils is just peppering that fence line. Miyagi. Why? Down's Nalik. Luckily, it's only a down so that res can come out. We've seen worse. And Kev is now beginning to make his way. We see the beginners opt to push the lane that's on the opposite side of the objective. They don't want to push into the objective. They want to push around it.
Beginner's got a couple stacked up over here on the west side. Does look like smokes are also coming in thick on this lane to try and allow them to cross.
Yeah, a lot of, I think it's raining smoke again. It's what we see them do, and they're really good at being able to get these crosses in by just spamming the smoke load out all the time. Matter of fact, Nalik has let 2 go by. Smoils is the only one contesting it. He'll be able to take down Nalik. Uncle Sam's able to find Kev and Icy Woods. Very nice cleanup on that lane one side. Now,
look at the flank coming in from Lone Miyagi on the backside. Catches Neox out. Smoils with the quick refrag, evens the odds.
And now it's all up to Uncle Sam and Kev to duel it out here. Beginners are still 3 strong, and so are Vikings. But whoever can control this back end here is definitely going to be in better shape. Smoils is able to find Femi. And now the Vikings are 2. Uncle Sam is trying to force a very slow peek. He picks up the pace here. He sees Kev and he's able to win that battle. Now it's up to Mantis and Uncle Sam once again to defend the objective from one of the top EU teams.
Smoils and the reservist going at the final 2 defenders, Uncle Sam and Mantis. Uncle Sam been doing a lot of work this series, finding a ton of kills. KD now 4-4 after a few shots fired and landing successfully this round. So stepping it up here and might be able to keep the Vikings in it. Still 2.5 left on the clock though.
Yeah, and Smoils is probably going to drag this out as long as possible. He knows that back end push is failed and that the Vikings have very good occupation of those backyards. So now he's got to think about how he wants to approach this objective. He can try to retake that backyard, but then he has to go against both Mantis and Uncle Sam, who've both been doing very good work for their team. Or he can try to do a much more direct approach, but then he has to worry about them both at the same time, but he doesn't have to make that very risky cross with almost no utility left to him.
Pause keeps sweeping here just over the head of Mantis, and if Mantis over peaks, he could go down to some shots to the bush. It looks like Paz actually has eyes on this position through the shrubs too. He can see Mantis pretty clearly peeking here.
Yeah, he's able to identify Mantis' position. Mantis now tries to chuck a nade in retaliation, but it won't be able to find that. It lands just a couple inches too short of the shrub.
Pretty hard to huck a nade when you're
crouched,
being blocked. Yeah.
You have to have that full arm swing, and when you're down on the ground like that, it is incredibly difficult to be able to get that radial velocity out of your arm. That's why baseball is played standing up. Looks like a bit of a trade going on between Paz and Smoils. Looks like they're going to opt to try to approach the objective together. It is a 2v2 right now, so this can go either way. And with only 30 seconds remaining, beginners are kind of on the disadvantage here because they have to work with the clock. Pause is beginning to do a last-second rotation. Smoils pushes out immediately. Vikings are now looking really good, but Smoils can go for those call-outs. Pause knows exactly where Mantis is. He finds Mantis. Now we're into a 1v1. Pause is the... Can he be the one to finish it up for beginners? The ducking happens on the side of the bush. Pause is in a very exposed position, and Vikings will be able to hang in there.
Tacking on another one to the score line, just trying to even the odds a little bit. Does help Vikings a touch on the MMR gain loss platform. And honestly, I do wonder, you know, how this affects it all, because I think if they can get this map, they might be more secure in that second place position. And take a look at the MMR separation between these two teams. I don't think it's much, if anything, really.
It's like 30 or something like that.
Yeah, you are right. Vikings have managed to get a pretty high MMR climb there.
So it's not the end of the world for Vikings. They do have that MMR boost. The question is how much are they going to lose off of this match? And the current scoreline as it stands right now is... Let me do some maths here.
I don't know, man. They could swap. It is ranks 2 versus ranks 3. So, like, you know, you lose... Your team loses, the other team wins. It's a double
whammy, yeah.
Yeah, right. So MMR drops. There's gains that might be enough to shift the balance of power there and put 2 world champion teams in each separate division.
Well, as it stands right now, the current scoreline is 12-5, so there is definitely a disparity there. And beginners are looking pretty good to be able to take map 3 as well, and that gets factored into the equation as well, being able to 3-0.
Yep, very true.
And so they're looking really good to be able to secure a non-global chem spot and be the top seat for their division.
See how defense shakes out as we hop into round number 6. Vikings versus beginners. If you are just tuning in, you've missed quite a bit of action. Maps 1 and 2 going into the hands of beginners 5-1 and 4-2.
Now we're going to see a bit of a mid push coming out from the Vikings. They're really prioritizing taking over that middle house very confidently. A couple of nades going out, almost catches Lone Miyagi, but not enough juice thrown into it. And I think beginners are actually opting to go... They've got a pretty spread kill box, but they're not extending too far out.
Not getting over aggressive with their point lead or anything like that. It's pretty standard defensive positions. But yes, it is pretty spread, and looks like they're going to want to catch out some early picks here with Smoils on the west. He has his eyes trained into these shrubs, and Nolik might be his first target.
C4 goes off, won't be able to find anything, as well as some nades. Still no picks on either side. Uncle Sam trying to pre-fire through the PVC fence there. Won't be able to find Mantis. I'm sorry, that is not correct. No, not able to find Icy Woods. Femi gets taken out by Icy Woods, though. First pick going to the beginners.
Nolik and Mantis inching their way through lane 2. Uncontested here. The smoke is denying Pause a little bit of vision, and Mantis sitting behind the shrubs is staying cloaked from his eyes. But if he goes too much further, it is going to be caught out by Kev or Pause. Smoils denying Nolik his approach on the west, and now it comes down to a 5v3.
Yeah, beginners are definitely asserting their advantage. Pause is able to find Mantis. Now, Vikings are only 2 strong. Beginners are 3. Whenever we see this happen in previous rounds in this match, beginners have done pretty good for themselves.
Yeah, we haven't seen any crazy comebacks.
Bit of C4 coming out.
Oh, that's not true.
We've seen some, but not. It hasn't been every single time.
Right.
Now, the first beginner has gone down, and we're approaching the halfway mark in the match. Vikings are on a bit of a downside. Matter of fact, you're looking at the entire team on screen.
smokes coming out now. They don't nearly have as much utility available as beginners did. Or we're used to seeing it rain smokes from the heavens, but now Vikings have got to work with one lone smoke for now. And if Miyagi... Kev definitely has the advantage in this matchup here. Miyagi is just being really noisy, and Kev has been super silent. Neox is also in a pretty interesting spot too. He might be able to find Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam's been doing some really good work.
It's true.
For the Vikings. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at least able to find Neox and work his way off of that, but we do see a rotation coming out from Lone. Take some pre-fires into the bush. I think beginners have a pretty good idea where he's rotating to. Now, Uncle Sam is meaning to make a peek across. Uncle Sam's able to find Kev instead. Oh, but Neox is able to find that pick. Now it's all up to Lone Miyagi to try to keep the Vikings in the game here and potentially tie it up. But that won't happen. Pause. We'll shut it down. And beginners will take map 3.
Pretty commanding win from this beginner's squad, and I do wonder if we're going to see a swap in rank between second and third. It's going to determine where we are at in the round robin, and you know, it's a exciting time to be a spectator of the league and to be playing in it. So much shifting of positions right now in the last week of the season. Beginners coming out strong today, though. I mean, really solid performance from them. Even with a sub, they're looking very good and coordinated. You know, finding those early picks, basically leading them to the vast majority of round wins, and Vikings just not able to bounce back from the player deficit that they consistently find themselves in. But a good couple of rounds from Vikings did nab them a few on the board, and honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing them compete up against some of these other squads that they don't normally get to face off against through the regular season.
Well, that's going to be it from us tonight. Just a quick shout out to our sponsors before we head out. We have ProTube VR, VR cover, fixed gaming, and rebuff reality, and I believe, what is it? You'd be able to correct me on this. It's Arma who does our merchandise.
It is.
So yeah, definitely go check out all their respective websites out. They're all available on the VRML website. Go ahead and support, you know, the people who try to add a little bit more immersion to our VR world. My name is TFH. My co-caster here today with me is NightFiree with 2 E's. You've been watching Beginners versus Vikings, and Beginners with a very decisive win in the end there. Maybe be able to influence their scoreline and influence where they land. I
do have a final thought before we go.
Well,
make sure that you tune into the, I know we talked a lot about it, but we haven't laid out the time. If you want to check out the wild card, it is going to be kicking off next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, starting off on Saturday at 1700 UTC. We don't know what teams will be playing in what groups, but if you haven't registered already for it, you're going to want to do that now. Make sure you go over to the Onward Master League, vrmasterleague.com/onward website. Click on the championships link and go to the Challenger Cup. You'll find all the information you need there. You can see what teams have registered so far, and you can register a squad for yourself. You don't even have to be a team that's existed. You can be a fresh team. If you just want to try your hand at the VR esports action, feel free to do that. That is going to be it from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night, everybody.
Good night.